I guess it's that time again, folks. Hello, Halo.
It's so nice to see you again.
So I was originally going to recap the Halo TV series in preparation for Season 2, but Paramount seems to be pretty butthurt about people making videos criticizing their highly acclaimed series. So if I can't discuss a horribly cobbled together Halo story from one media format, then I'll have to discuss it in another. That's right, folks. Today we're talking about Halo's awful story throughout Halo 4, Halo 5, and Halo Infinite. Oh wait, those games had a story? When 343 took over the mantle of responsibility from Bungie, Halo fans were excited to see where the story would go. What could Chief possibly get himself into now that the Flood had been defeated and the Human Covenant War had come to a close? But upon releasing the Reclaimer Trilogy, 343 had succeeded in giving us one of the most lackluster, confusing, and disjointed stories in the history of the franchise. Characters are introduced and then dropped in the next game. Storylines are so haphazardly written that it's sometimes difficult to understand what's going on, or the plot is so ridiculous that it's hard to believe that you're even playing a Halo game. Entire plot threads are introduced and then seemingly forgotten about, and the overall writing is some of the worst in the series. And that's saying something because Bungie unironically gave us this line.
Ma'am, squad leaders are requesting a rally point. Where should they go?
To war.
Okay, seriously, where do we go? I have a question for the viewers. I want you to sit down and really think about this. Can you tell me exactly what happens in Halo 4, 5, and Infinite? Halo 4, you fight a Forerunner dude, the Didact, who's still alive for some reason. I thought all the Forerunner died, but okay. So then that story gets dropped, and then in Halo 5, Chief betrays the UNSC. Oh wait, no, that was a lie. It's really about fighting some random ass dude 18 times and Cortana turns bad or something. And then that story gets dropped, and finally in Halo Infinite, I'm not sure what we really even accomplished in that one. Something about xylophones or something? Okay, but that was just the easy question. Now I want you to tell me, what is the continuing narrative throughout each game? What overarching story connects all three? Trick question. The answer is nothing.
Oh my dude, you just got pranked.
And this is one of the biggest problems for 343's trilogy here. Oh wait, that's actually the wrong terminology. Because this group of games identifies as the Reclaimer Saga. Sorry, Phil. I can't blame them for changing the name. I would do the same thing if I realized these games were less of a trilogy with a consistent narrative and more of a cobbled together group of memes that keeps failing at course correcting worse than a ship without a rudder. Seriously, there is no continuing story throughout this saga. It's so disjointed that you're just getting whiplash from one game to the next. It got so bad that by the time you get to the Halo Infinite opening cutscene, it's like Halo 4 and 5 didn't even exist. The original trilogy of Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, and Halo 3 might not have had the best sci-fi story of all time. Okay, it was actually pretty good. And there was a clear overarching objective through each game. Beat the Covenant, eradicate the Flood, and defend humanity. The three prophets of the Covenant were our main bad guys pulling the strings behind the scenes, and forcing the Covenant down a murderous path with a false religion. The Halos, the Flood, and the Gravemind intrigued us and elevated the story past just kill the aliens. The mystery of the ancient Forerunner kept us guessing and wondering, what were their intentions? Will we ever run into them someday? Who were they? Are we Forerunner?
You are Forerunner.
Well, I guess that answers that question. The classic trilogy also had an entertaining cast of characters, protagonists and antagonists. Some had smaller parts within the story, but still pushed it forward. We got insight into their motives. Through the serious tone of the game, we were even given some comic relief. We had exciting moments, sad moments, and some funny ones. It was all nicely balanced and entertaining. I don't think I like any of the new characters in the Reclaimer Saga, and the villains are all over the place. With the new one introduced each game, it's like a cartoon villain of the week. I don't know who any of these people are or what their motivations could be. And just when you think the main bad guys are getting introduced, they just get dropped out of nowhere, killed off screen, or built up and then killed comically fast in one cutscene. Oh hey, Jewel Obamina. That guy is a real bad. Oh. Who are we even fighting against anymore? Why? And don't tell me it's explained in some book. Most of this stuff should be presented in the games. A small fraction of the fan base reads the books, and even if you do read the books, you still kind of get screwed over. So why is each individual's game story in the Reclaimer Saga so bad? And how do they all come together to give us the narrative equivalent of wheel spinning? What makes them so disjointed and generally unliked by the wider Halo fanbase? Well, I think it's finally time to do our unfortunate deep dive into the Reclaimer Saga. Halo 4, the game where it all started to go downhill. Halo 3 ended on a perfect note. Chief, along with his new best bro, completed their mission of defeating the Flood and the Covenant. They were tragically separated at the end after firing the Halo ring prematurely, destroying it and the Ark. A memorial service is held for the Chief as he was left drifting off into space after heroically saving the entire galaxy. And Chief gives us the perfect cherry on top of the entire ending, uttering the famous line,
"Wake me when you need me."
Guess what, Chief? Time to wake the f up and ruin an entire IP, and we're starting right now. Chief, I need you to make a shit zillion dollars. The story of Halo 4 was written by Christopher Schlurf, the main writer for 343, but only for one game, and it shows. Now, I'm no stranger to the fact that many people online see Halo 4 as one of the better campaigns in the entire series. Some even say it's the best. Do I stand with the community's opinion on this? Now, I should try to start with something positive about Halo 4, and I can think of a couple good reasons why this might be the best Cortana model in the entire series, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Cortana may have gotten some nice upgrades, but what the hell happened with Chief's armor? Anyone gonna explain this one? Hello? Mr. Schlurf? 343? Oh yes, you, the bald guy. What credentials do you have? Oh, you used to write the blogs at Bungie. And now you're the ultimate arbiter of all of the Halo canon. Okay.
Some fans were upset of the idea of nanobots making repairs to the Chief's armor.
Oh, you say Chief's armor changed because of nanobots. That makes sense. See, I was worried your explanation was going to be really dumb. The change from the Halo 3 armor to the Halo 4 armor is jarring for sure, and this is subjective like everything in this video. But I hate this armor. The classic Mjolnir armor from the original trilogy was militaristic and had a utilitarian design. It just fit with the tone of the game and who Chief was. With Halo 4, we've gone full sci-fi mode with something that looks more like a fan render on DeviantArt than something an actual designer was paid to make. And that's not to say it's bad, but it's just too far of a step away from the classic look. And can we just talk about these shoulder plates? These really always bothered me. They just do not fit with the aesthetic of the rest of the armor. It looks like it was stripped from some Covenant tech. And where's all the armor on the torso? Boy, I sure hope Chief doesn't get shot between his head and his feet. That would suck. There's just way too much going on with this armor. It's busy, so when in doubt, keep it simple. There's probably a good reason they went back to the classic look for Halo Infinite. It's because people don't like this. The reason I bring this up is because it sets a precedent of what 343 was doing with the Halo series at the time. They were making this IP their own, making it clear that Bungie is gone, 343 is here to stay, and this time around, this is their game. Things are changing for the sake of change, and you better like it because it's here to stay. Unless the community complains about it a lot. But seriously, bro, nanobots.
I call Captain's chair!
Frank O'Connor essentially made this canon that nanobots, something that's never been mentioned in the original Halos, upgraded Chief's armor. But by changing the armor in the first place, and with 343's insistence on making everything canon, including multiplayer, they needed to have a reason for this change. And because Chief was frozen for 4 years floating in space all by himself, they really didn't have any other explanation for him to have new armor. But again, you could have just not changed the armor. But now it's time to address the big planet-sized elephant in the room. This planet. This is Requiem. Some may not know this, but Bungie did hint at Requiem during the legendary ending of Halo 3. So I'm sure Bungie had some kind of rough idea of what was going to happen on this planet. Unfortunately, they weren't planning on making Halo 4 since they were too busy thinking about how they can make the world's most expensive game ever. As Chief gets pulled into Requiem, we're soon introduced to some familiar faces, some bloated ones. Pretty quickly you realize that not only were Chief and Cortana's art style changed, but all of the art style was changed, and not for the better. Elites put on some weight during the off-season, grunts are no longer there for your amusement, and jackals, they just don't look like jackals anymore. So again, you're going to notice that 343 will make changes to the series just for the sake of changing it. The excuses only come out after the criticisms start rolling in. Oh, you don't like how we randomly changed Chief's armor? It was nanobots. Oh, you don't like how he made all the Covenant look like ass? They're a different species or something. But yes, we're still fighting the Covenant. Why? This is casually explained away in a quick line.
I thought we had a truce with the Covenant.
A lot can happen in 4 years.
I honestly don't mind this point too much because the Covenant forces are just too fun to fight against, and I'd probably hate this game 100 times more than I already do, given that we have to fight these guys. but we'll get into that a little later. This opening sequence overall is done pretty well. There's action, mystery, and a sense of fear as you get sucked into this huge planet. It's something that we've never seen before in a Halo game. After this action-packed intro, you land on Requiem, and she finds out that Cortana is going through rampancy, which means she's gonna die. As 343 expects us all to be experts of the Halo canon, we know that AIs go through rampancy after 7 years or so. They basically gather too much information over the course of their lifespan and essentially go crazy. This was a neat thing that they included, which adds some drama and humanity to Cortana and Chief. Chief struggles to keep Cortana calm and reassures her, promising that they'll find a way to fix her rampancy and stop it. This conflict pervades throughout the entire length of Halo 4 and really allowed Chief and Cortana to expand on their relationship together. Now, people freak out about this, and while it's more of a personal story between Chief and Cortana, we really were getting stuff like this in the original trilogy, Halo 3 especially. So while it wasn't uncharted territory, it was nice that they expanded on this a little more. And go figure, a lot of fans seem to like this side of their relationship. I mean, it really inspired them. And the voices of Chief and Cortana, Steve Downes and Jen Taylor respectively, give a fantastic performance. Actually, I'd say one of the best in the series. There's a real focus on the increase in dialogue in Halo 4, and I think that was an interesting twist on the series. While we all know Bungie stated that Chief is just a vessel for the player, this aspect gives them a little more relatability while still being a literal superhuman killing machine. Here's a Halo 4 fun fact. Did you know that Steve Downes and Jen Taylor performed together in person while recording the lines for Halo 4? Here's another Halo 4 fun fact. This game unveiled one of the dumbest, most pointless bad guys in all of Halo. Now, if you just played straight through the original games, you'd think that all of the Forerunner are dead. The Halo rings were activated and they wiped themselves out in an attempt to starve the flood of their food. But guess what? Right here on Requiem, right on this planet that you just so happen to land on, they had one Forerunner left for some reason. And you'll never guess, but he's a racist. Or, speciesist? Manist? He hates humans. Introducing the biggest galactic bigot of them all, the one you've all been waiting for, the Didact.
Identify yourself. Who the fuck are you?
Seriously, bro, who are you? In the front-facing story of the games, there's been no build-up, no anticipation, and no foreshadowing of this guy. So what the hell's going on here? I'll tell you what's going on here. It's the extended universe. If you read the books and you'd have some idea of what's going on here, at least that's what I've gathered from online, but I hate the idea that you have to read a book in order to understand who the main villain is. The books are there to be read, obviously, but they should expand on the lore of the games, not be the sole source of all information of a character, especially the main villain. That's why I think all this stuff, every bit of lore and explanation should be in the games. You could just add a cutscene here, a line of dialogue there, and flesh out the story more for the people who only play the games. Because as it stands, if you didn't read the books, you don't give a crap about this guy. Okay, he wants to kill humans, so I guess we kill him? In the original trilogy, we can look at someone like Tartar Sauce. We knew his motivations and he was being built up throughout the story of Halo 2. He actually had some interactions with the main characters before we met him, and he was driven by a yearning for power and pushed along by a false religion. So when we finally got to face him, it felt good to kick his gorilla-looking ass. So let me explain to most of you out there, this is the Didact, a Forerunner who was imprisoned on Requiem. The one single planet that would keep him safe from the firing of the Halo rings, which wiped out all life in the galaxy hundreds of thousands of years ago. Gee, I wonder why all the Forerunner didn't just chill on this planet. Kinda weird that the Didact, a prisoner, was the only one who made it out alive during the firing of the Halo array. Kinda weird. But the Didact is given quite literally a couple of minutes in a single cutscene of this game, and we don't see him again until the end.
The Forerunners have returned.
Oh, he's calling himself the Forerunners? That's weird. I thought humans made up that word for them. Why are they calling themselves that? I guess it's explained in the books. Does the book explain why he has telekinesis too? Is it his armor that's doing that? What's this hand wave thing that he did to make everyone subservient to him? Is it some kind of mind trick? It's kind of what it looked like. I have no idea what's going on.
You will blindly praise Halo 4 as the best game in the series.
Halo 4 is the best game in the series.
But Chief is probably feeling pretty bad about himself right now, considering he was the one who released the Didact in the first place. Couldn't it have been like someone within the UNSC doing research on this planet that accidentally releases him, or one of the Covenant trying to release him to worship him? Because you can literally blame everything that happens on the Chief. Everyone who dies from the Didact? Whoops, sorry guys. But now that we see how powerful the Didact is and how he's an ancient enemy of the humans, he would make out as a pretty cool villain to span across the entire Reclaimer trilogy, or sorry, saga. He apparently has a long-standing, thousands-of-year-old grudge against ancient humans. He was a tyrant, he's gone a little crazy. He just wants revenge and wants to retake the mantle for the Forerunners. How you gonna do that, buddy? You're the only one. I don't know how you're gonna reproduce with only just one dude. But alright, I guess that's some okay setup and motivation. Boy, I really hope he stays around for a while. Unfortunately, with the introduction of the Didact, it also introduces us to the Prometheans. These seemingly mechanical beings are actually integrated with ancient human consciousnesses that were implanted in them via the Didact's composer. A truly nefarious device that rips the soul out of a living being and places them inside a mechanical husk, allowing the Didact to make a mass army unable to be defeated by the Flood. While this is a cool sci-fi concept, fighting against the Prometheans has to be the most boring yet somehow still annoying things in the entire game. I don't want to get into gameplay that much, but the reason for this is because they don't have much to their AI past, try to kill you, and then teleport away. And they also have some of these annoying flying guys that will shield the Promethean Knights until you kill them. This is in such a stark contrast to the Covenant because the Covenant were actually fun to fight. The reason for that is because each of them reacted differently. Elites were quick and agile, they would take cover, dodge grenades, reposition themselves, and just overall be quick and formidable opponents. This goes for the rest of the Covenant forces as they all had specific ways of fighting. The introduction of the Prometheans severely limited the fighting style and fun gameplay loop. Now when you encounter one of these assholes, you can be sure you're just in for some boredom. From this point on, the game switches to the Chief chasing the Didact down in an attempt to prevent his dastardly deeds like a cartoon villain. But I still don't really care about him for being such a powerful character. There's been all of about zero build up to his revelation in the beginning of the game. So I'm still finding it hard to care about this guy other than, okay, I have to kill him, I guess. But don't worry, because Chief and his neurodivergent BPD girlfriend have some nice friendly help. The UNSC Infinity and her whole entire crew are here, all of whomst have the utmost respect for Chief and Cortana.
Arrest that man!
Captain.
Arrest him!
Hey, wait a minute. Why is the Infinity on Requiem? Didn't the Chief just randomly find this place after his ship was drifting in space for 4 years? For all the UNSC knows, this planet is in bumblefuck nowhere in the middle of the galaxy. They had absolutely zero idea where the Master Chief was. Well, I had to look this up because I forgot, even though this incredible stroke of luck is hand-waved in a single cutscene. But the explanation is just so ridiculously coincidental, I'd say the chances of this happening are 0.
These symbols are a derivation of the Forerunner glyph system.
And our geeks managed to pull some coordinates. I'll give you 3 guesses where it led.
So at that same time, after the Chief was floating in space for 4 years, 7 months, and 10 days and lands on Requiem, the Infinity makes a slip space jump to the same planet and just so happened to run into the Chief. You know, Cortana could call Chief lucky all she wants, but that's some Mjolnir level plot armor right there. Aboard the UNSC Infinity are some new characters we're introduced to, namely Captain Lasky, Commander Del Rio, and everyone's fan favorite, Palmer.
Seal her up! I thought you'd be taller.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You know, this specific line angered a lot of people within the community. This is just around the time when games were, quote, going woke. This kind of stuff spawned the anti-SJW crowd that would eventually form as well. But looking past all that and taking politics out of it, Palmer is just a garbage character. This line coming from someone we literally just got introduced to made her seem like a huge asshole. After everything Chief has done, he probably would have been worshipped as the literal savior of humanity, or at the very least looked up to as a hero. So when you introduce a new character meeting the Chief for the first time, especially another Spartan, it would have been nice to see them look up to him, validating everything you've done in the past 3 games. And Palmer is a Spartan too, albeit a smaller, less augmented version, so for someone like that to make a condescending remark upon first meeting the guy just kind of makes you look like a dick. When Johnson and Chief make quips at each other, it's funny because Johnson's not a woman. Okay, I'm joking. It's because we know they have a mutual respect for each other, and we know Johnson to be a jokester himself.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
343 just made a bad writing move, especially since they wanted Palmer to be a persistent character, which she still is for whatever reason. And in the following main Reclaimer Saga games, she barely has anything else to do. She certainly isn't expanded upon in Halo 4 unless you play Spartan Ops, and people didn't even like her in that game either. According to the community, Lasky is one of the only new characters that people can stand. But as someone on Reddit aptly pointed out, Lasky has all the charisma of plain yogurt. But my god, at least he's likable. I mean, just imagine being the Chief and after almost 5 years of going missing after saving the entire galaxy, you get greeted by all these assholes.
Arrest that man!
Captain.
Arrest him!
I thought you'd be taller.
Maybe next time you rescue us and give us more time to pack.
You know, I think you, of all people, would appreciate the benefit of living to fight another day.
And that brings me to Del Rio. Cool name, but that's about the only redeeming quality of this guy. He's basically a walking, talking, old military dude trope. He doesn't seem to have much respect for Chief either, even though Del Rio's been in the UNSC for basically his entire life. He would have heard about the Chief, known about his heroic missions and how he saved humanity. And as an old military dude who's seen some action, he would probably have some of the highest respect for Master Chief. So why is he being such an asshole instead of at least trying to reason with him? I mean, he literally calls the Chief old and outdated.
I'm not willing to jeopardize my ship because of the hallucinations of an aging Spartan and his malfunctioning AI.
But I guess it's just for drama because that's what activates our neurons. But maybe just make Del Rio someone else, like some new up-and-coming person who just fast-tracked their way to the top of the UNSC and doesn't have much respect for the Chief like a seasoned veteran would. But seriously, Del Rio throughout the entire game is just in a bad mood, and it's never really explained why. He's just a stereotypical angry old dude who gets in fights with you most of the time. But now this brings up another issue. So first, Chief released a Didact and put all of humanity at risk. But now we could say that because Chief didn't listen to Del Rio's orders to decommission Cortana, his actions directly caused Halo 5 to happen.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
343 really has the utmost respect for this character. The missions from this point on do have some of their moments, like riding around in the Mammoth, and then the one where you pilot the Pelican for the first time ever in a Halo game, as if 343 is tossing us a bone here. Unfortunately, the rest are largely forgettable due to the Prometheans and the boring, metallic, gray, light blue aesthetic that 343 chose for the look of this game. Plus the idea of just chasing around the Didact, who we still really don't know or care all that much about, isn't great. So far we're having a great time. Chief got all nanobotted up, the Covenant look weird, Infinity finds a green needle in a literal galaxy-sized haystack, we hate most of the new characters, and we just got introduced to the most powerful and formidable antagonist in the entire series who has all of about 2 lines worth of explanation. So surely you'd think you wouldn't be hit with more nonsense.
I am what remains of the Forerunner, once known as the Librarian.
Oh, the Librarian scene. This scene right here where Chief meets the Librarian is easily the biggest lore dump we've ever had in a Halo game. This scene tells us about ancient humanity, why the Forerunner and ancient humans fought against each other, and how the Flood was introduced to the galaxy. In one cutscene, we're basically given all of the building blocks of the entire Halo universe. But the explanation for everything is so ridiculous, so quickly thrown together, and plot holes just swept under the rug that I had more questions coming out of it than I did going in. First, we're told about the human Forerunner War, which happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. Apparently, ancient humans were mistakenly seen as aggressive by the Forerunners. So the Forerunners just attacked them, even though the humans were simply running from the Flood. Why not just stop and ask what they're doing? You guys are a galactic civilization. You can't just communicate with them.
So we cool? Yeah, we cool.
Even if you can't communicate due to a language barrier, why not just look at what they're doing? I'm sure you'd be able to see that they're running from something. I feel crazy that I'm explaining this. But even that plot hole I can just look past because the next plot hole is so laughably absurd that it's difficult to make sense of. I'm not sure people even caught it the first time they were watching this cutscene. So the Librarian tells us she reseeded all life in the galaxy after the firing of the Halo rings. Okay, if we're going with the whole ancient humans and Forerunner thing, then that's actually kind of cool. I'm on board for this. So when she reseeded the life, she imprinted our species with something called a gene song, which made us evolve the way we did. Also a neat sci-fi concept, I guess. I'm still with you, Librarian. Tell me more.
I hid seeds from the Didact. Seeds which would lead to an eventuality. Your physical evolution, your combat skin, even your ancilla, Cortana. You are the culmination of 1,000 lifetimes of planning.
What? How does implanting us with something in our genes lead us to make a suit of armor and invent AI? What? The best mental gymnast of them all couldn't have that make sense. In order to fully understand the absurdity, I had to go to the Halopedia. It states that the gene song implanted in us gave us a subconscious awareness of how to gradually achieve higher states of technological achievements.
That would suck.
Yeah.
Why?
This whole cutscene and explanation just brings Chief into the Chosen One territory. It's just really hard for me to wrap my mind around how one edited genome of an entire species leads to a single person being created. And on top of that, all of humanity being subconsciously aware of how to make AI and Spartan armor, I guess. You guys are really riding the line on suspending my disbelief, and that's saying something for a series with a giant bad guy made out of corpses. But whatever, the Librarian evolves us faster, which allows us to beat the Didact, I guess. Whoops, too bad we didn't accelerate the evolution of all these guys, huh? Actually, if the Librarian's able to accelerate our evolution, then why didn't she just do that with all humans in the first place? Whatever. So now we're getting to the end of the first part in this Reclaimer Saga. The racist Didact makes it to planet Earth. Even after all the lefty debate bro videos that Cortana tried to send the Didact, he's still racist against humans. What a bigot. So he shoots his big enslavement beam down to Earth to make all of his inhabitants into his Promethean army. At this point, it's only the Chief and Cortana who can stop him. Unfortunately for the Didact, the Chief knows the main weakness of all video game bosses: QuickTime events. Hey, 343, you been playing COD, or... In the end, Cortana sacrifices herself to help defeat the Didact, which leads to one of my favorite scenes in Halo. As I stated before, the highest points of the story are the interactions between Chief and Cortana, and this seemed like an okay send-off. When I watched this for the first time, I had literally almost forgotten about what just happened with the Didact. Speaking of forgetting about the Didact, so did 343.
You blew it!
That's right, this all-powerful, nearly omnipotent antagonist was introduced in one game, defeated by waifu overload, and never heard from again. If you want to see what actually happened to the Didact, in typical 343 fashion, you have to not play the game and start reading a comic book called Escalation. The art is almost as meme-worthy as killing a villain of your series in a comic book. This all begs the question, why even introduce the Didact in the first place if you're just gonna kill him 6 missions later? You have one of the most powerful and potentially interesting antagonists in the history of the franchise. Despite my hate for fighting against the Prometheans, this probably could have been done right. It was a jarring change to fight against them instead of just Covenant forces, but if 343 wanted to go in this direction, then damn, just go head first. If we're going with the whole Forerunner and Didact angle, then keep him as the main overarching bad guy throughout the saga. First game could have been about finding about the Didact and exploring all of Requiem. Old Forerunner cities, factories, labs, fortresses. I mean, you could really just go crazy with all the structures and ruins of this Forerunner planet. You've already got your foot in the door with the Librarian's lore dump, just go all the way. Don't just give us these lame ass blue hallways that have literally no purpose. I want to explore old Forerunner stuff. As we explored, we could have found out the true history of the Didact, his past life, who he is as a person, his descent into madness, how he was in prison, and why he hated the human race so much. His story could have been revealed completely in the game little by little, and it would have matched nicely with the more narrative-driven focus of Halo 4. And then you could have varied the enemies. I would say just ditch the Prometheans altogether and make some more interesting army that the Didact would have by his side. Make a bunch of different kinds of enemies and then just have at it. The second game could have been the low point for the humans, where Master Chief loses Cortana, the Didact has the upper hand, and Chief is trying to find the domain to bring Cortana back. Then in the third game, with Cortana back and the knowledge gained through the domain, humanity launches a counterattack against the Didact and his army. You team up with the allied Covenant races. It could basically be an all-out war, comparable to the large-scale battles of the ancient humans that happened so long ago.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
That's just my crappy idea I came up with literally as I was typing it up. I'm sure someone could have done something better, but they didn't. And now what we're left with is the first installment of this saga, seeming like it was a one-off and didn't even belong to begin with. And that could be said for pretty much every game in this saga. But if you ask me, I wouldn't have even gone this route. I think the Forerunners should have stayed dead and we should have never seen them. The idea of introducing a Forerunner, a race that's been a mystery to us throughout the entire series, and then killing him immediately deflates all the intrigue that's been built up over the last decade. You know, I'm not even sure where you could take the series if I'm being honest. I'd be curious to know where Bungie would have taken it, other than taking it down microtransaction hell. But story-wise, I'm sure it would have been more interesting. Oh, what's this? An interview with Halo co-creator Marcus Leto about what Bungie would have done with the story of Halo 4. According to Marcus, it seems like Bungie would have kept the Forerunner a mystery to the players and introduced them to a different enemy, but apparently their vision wasn't all that dissimilar with 343's. Well, that sucks. So what we're left with is Cortana dying, the Didact dying, Del Rio never being heard from again, some characters that no one likes, and the mystery of the Forerunner completely exposed so quickly that it carries little weight. If I had something positive to say, I did enjoy the fact that we got some expanded lore, even though I don't like the direction they took it in. But the best thing by far is the exploration of the relationship between Cortana and Chief, because 343 didn't give us anything else. And Lasky is alright, I guess. He might be bland, but at least he's somewhat likable. More than I could say for anyone else in this story. You know, the character might have sucked, but Mark Rolston, the voice actor for Del Rio, gives one of the best performances I've ever heard in a video game. But that, folks, is just the beginning. And despite all my complaining, this is actually the best game in 343's Reclaimer Saga. So if you think that was bad, then just wait until Halo 5, one of the most controversial Halo games to date. And we'll be breaking it all down, from the Hunt the Truth advertisement campaign to the laughably bad stories and characters, and possibly the worst ending in any Halo game ever. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe because I make videos and reviews about all kinds of stuff. If you want me to review something next, just let me know in the comments. And speaking of comments, let me know what you thought about Halo 4. Alright, peace.